The early morning sun broke over the horizon as Flight 237 prepared for takeoff from Denver International Airport. Business travelers scrolled through emails, families wrangled children, and the usual shuffle of boarding buzzed through the cabin. In C-12F, a quiet man buckled his daughter in beside him. His name was Daniel Cole, a widowed single dad in his late 30s. His 8-year-old daughter, Lily, clutched a stuffed fox in her lap, eyes sparkling with excitement at their trip to Washington, D.C. To everyone else on board, Daniel looked like just another passenger, casually dressed, a bit tired, but focused entirely on his little girl. As the flight leveled off, Daniel kept to himself. He wasn't one for small talk. The passengers around him assumed he was just another hard-working dad taking his daughter on vacation. But what nobody knew was that the man in 12F once carried a name that could make elite fighter pilots straighten in respect. At 32, Daniel had been one of the youngest pilots to earn a command in the Air Force's most secretive unit. His call sign, Ghost Hawk, was whispered across bases as a legend. He had flown missions that weren't acknowledged, saved lives that could never be named, and carried scars that didn't show. But after his wife's passing, Daniel left it all behind to raise Lily, exchanging fighter jets for bedtime stories and covert operations for school runs. Still, the past had a way of finding him. Halfway through the flight, the captain's voice broke over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, due to restricted airspace ahead, we'll have an escort for a short stretch of our route." Passengers murmured in curiosity as, moments later, two F-22 Raptors slid into view outside the windows, their silver wings glinting in the morning sun. Children pressed their faces to the glass, whispering in awe. Lily gasped, tugging her father's sleeve. "Daddy, fighter jets, just like the ones you told me about." Daniel smiled faintly, though something sharp flickered in his eyes. He knew exactly what squadron flew this route. And as one of the Raptors banked closer, Daniel recognized the unit insignia on its tail. It was his old squadron. The pilot inside the lead jet adjusted formation and tilted slightly, almost like he was searching. Daniel's chest tightened. He leaned back, not wanting attention, but then, the intercom crackled again. "Passenger in C-12F, please report to the cockpit." Gasps rippled through the cabin. Heads turned toward Daniel. A flight attendant approached, her face pale but professional. "Sir, the captain has requested your presence." Lily clutched his hand nervously. "Daddy, what's happening?" Daniel squeezed her hand gently. "Stay here, sweetheart, I'll be right back." As he rose, every eye followed him. To them, he was just a single dad. But to the two F-22 pilots outside, his presence had already sent a ripple of electricity through the skies. Because the man walking toward the cockpit wasn't just Daniel Cole. He was, Ghost Hawk. Part 2. The call sign revealed approximately equals 1,500 words. When Daniel stepped into the cockpit, the captain immediately stood, his face pale with disbelief. "Sir, forgive me, but are you, Ghost Hawk?" Daniel's jaw tightened. He hadn't heard that name in years. "You must be mistaken, I'm just a passenger." But before he could say more, the radio crackled. "Flight 237, this is Raptor 1. Confirm, do you have Ghost Hawk on board?" The captain looked at Daniel in awe. The man he had thought was just a quiet father from 12F was suddenly the center of attention from America's most elite fighter pilots. Daniel sighed, leaning toward the radio. His voice dropped into the calm, commanding tone that once carried across battlefields. "This is Ghost Hawk, identify yourselves." There was a stunned silence, and then the response came, filled with reverence. "Sir, this is Viper and Blade, 95th Fighter Squadron. We grew up hearing your name. It's an honor." Back in the cabin, passengers were buzzing with theories. Lily pressed her face to the window, watching the jets dance around the plane. She didn't fully understand, but she felt proud. Her dad wasn't just a dad, he was someone extraordinary. Daniel's presence had been requested for a reason. Intelligence agencies had caught chatter about a potential airborne threat near the flight path. The Raptors had been scrambled for protection, but when the roster revealed a name, Daniel Cole, former commander, call sign Ghost Hawk, protocol changed instantly. The squadron didn't just want his presence confirmed. They wanted his guidance. And so, at 30,000 feet, the man who had walked away from the skies found himself thrust back into command. For the next tense hour, Daniel coordinated with the F-22s, his steady voice carrying the same authority as years before. Passengers in the cabin grew hushed as the word spread, the man from C-12F was leading the escort mission. When radar confirmed the threat was a false alarm, relief swept the crew. The F-22s prepared to peel away. But before leaving, both Raptors tilted their wings sharply in a formal salute, a gesture reserved only for the rarest of respect. Every passenger on Flight 237 pressed against the windows, watching in awe. Lily turned, her eyes wide. "Daddy, they saluted you." Daniel ruffled her hair, a quiet smile breaking his usually guarded expression. "They saluted the call sign. Not me." But he knew it wasn't true. In the world he left behind, call signs weren't just nicknames, they were legends carried by the few who had earned them. And Ghost Hawk had been one of the most respected. When the flight landed, whispers followed Daniel through the terminal. People who had once seen him as just a single dad now looked at him with awe. Yet Daniel ignored the attention, focusing only on Lily's small hand in his. To her, he wasn't Ghost Hawk, commander, or legend. He was just dad, and that was the only title he wanted to keep.